Hello everybody, in this video we are going to continue the conversation about solving a system of equations using the matrix on our calculator. In the previous video we talked about how to set up a system of equations so we can create our input matrix. So remember that both equations have to be written in standard form for us to be able to create the matrix that's going to go into the calculator. In this video we are going to focus on taking that matrix and plugging it into the calculator so it can give us our answer. Now, I do want to remind you that when we're solving a system of equations, there are three different possibilities. You can get a one solution, which means two lines intersect each other and they have one point in common. So your answer is an ordered pair. We can also have two lines that do not intersect each other because they're parallel, so it's a no solution. And then we have the many solutions, which turns out that both equations are two different equations to the same line. And so that would be many solutions. So how can we interpret the answer that our calculator gives us to know which one of the three it is? So we're going to talk about that. So the first thing we're going to do is look at a one solution. For a one solution, you have an x and a y value. That ordered pair is your answer at the end. So if you're looking at the system of equations on our screen, you're going to see that the first equation is in standard form. We have x, we have y, we have the equal sign, and then the constant. So this one is ready to go. If you look at the second equation, now even though there's a 0 at the end, I want to remind you that that 0 does not have a variable. It will be considered our constant. So the second equation is also in standard form because we have our x, we have our y, we have our equal sign, and this, even though it's a 0, would be considered our constant. So both of these are ready. So I'm going to take the numbers in the same order in which they're written and write my input matrix. So I'm actually going to label it and put input matrix. Now you don't have to label it, but in order for you to show work, because most of the work is going to be done on the calculator, you have to show me what equation or what matrix you put into the calculator, and I also want to see matrix you get from your calculator. That's your way of showing work. So the first thing we're going to do is say -2, +6, -8. That's our first equation. Then we're going to say -8, +8, and 0. Now you'll find that some people do draw a line to separate your x, y from your constant. That line can represent the equal sign as well. So sometimes it's a solid line, sometimes it's a dotted line, sometimes we don't even draw it at all. It's up to you on how you want to organize your work. Alright, so like I said in the previous video, we are using the TI Nspire. So we're actually going to turn it on, and we're going to start at the home screen. Now when you start at the home screen, we're going to go up to, you can hit the 1 on your keypad because we're going to go up to new, and we're going to start there. Now when you get to this screen, if there's other pages here, you can go ahead and hit that little X in the corner to delete them, but we're going to add calculator. So the first screen already pops up, and we're going to add the calculator. And then we're going to go to menu. And notice that when you hit menu is this button right here, it gives you this list. We're actually going to hit 7, scroll down and hit enter, or just hit 7 on your keypad. And the next thing that we need is this right here. So we need number 5. Now on your screen it's going to show up as RREF, so they've abbreviated it for us, but they have a set of parentheses. What's inside the parentheses is what is our matrix. This is where we need to put our numbers. So before you start typing away, let me show you a different button on your calculator. Okay. So there's this little book right here. We're not hitting that button. We're hitting this one right here because it gives us a template to several different kinds of numbers. So I'm going to ask you to hit this button right here next to the 9. And it's going to give you this little sub menu. If you go through here, you're going to look at this list and you're going to see this one right here. And I'm going to use this one, and once it's highlighted, I'm going to hit enter. And I want to introduce to you another button that I'm going to use. So we don't need 3 rows, we need 2 rows. So I'm going to hit 2. And in order for me to get to this box right here, I would hit the tab button. So if I hit tab, I'm not changing the number of columns because I need 2 rows, 3 columns. But from here, I'm also going to hit tab again and then hit enter. Now, most of the time you could just hit enter and it might give you what you need, but make sure that you have 2 rows, 3 columns, because there should be a box for each one of these numbers. All right, let's go ahead and type them in. Once again, I'm going to use this tab key. So I'm going to hit -2 tab, and notice it jumps to the other box. 6 tab, -8, and then when I hit tab again, it brings me down to the bottom for another -8. +8, and 0. So you should have a number for each one of those boxes. So even if it's a 0, it's still filling in that box. Once you're here, all you have to do is hit enter. Now, you're going to get another matrix in return. This is our input matrix because these are the numbers we put into our calculator. And then this is our output matrix because this is our solution. This is what your calculator gave you. So we're going to write this down and we're going to label it as the output matrix. And notice that it's the exact same dimension. So for this one, we're going to say 1, 0, -2. And then we're going to say 0, 1, -2. Now, let's interpret this. And then I'll go back and show you something else once we get done with all 3 of them. So the first thing I'm going to point out is, remember that this column is for the x's, this is for the y's, and these are for the constants. I'm going to go ahead and draw that line so you know that that's where the equal sign would be. This tells me, and I'm going to draw a little arrow here, that we have 1x. We have 0 y's, so I'm not even going to write it. There's no y's, I'm not going to write it. And if this is my equal sign, it's equal to -2. So technically it's telling us that x is equal to -2. If you go back to the second equation, we have 0 x's, but we have 1 y. So we're going to say this equation is 1 y is equal to -2. So it's basically telling us that these 2 numbers right here are my x and my y. So I can then say that the answer is a 1 solution, and the point of intersection of the 2 lines would be at -2, -2. And there you go. That is the answer. And that's how we got it using our calculator. So what happens when we have 2 parallel lines? What is this going to look like if we don't have an x or a y value that they have in common? So let's look at what the matrix is going to look like when we do a no solution using the same method. All right, so notice that the title for this one specifically already says no solution. So we know that these 2 lines are parallel and they're not going to intersect each other. So we can also see that both equations are already in standard form. So this one's in standard form because we have x, y, equal sign, constant. Second one is in standard form because of the same thing, x, y, equal sign, constant. So let's go ahead and write in our input matrix. I'm not going to label it anymore, but I'm just going to write the numbers in order. So -10, 3, -2. Then we're going to say -20, 6, -16. Okay, notice that my matrix is 2 by 3. And so we're going to grab our calculator and we're going to go through the steps one more time. All right, so for this one, we're going to hit menu. We're going to go to 7, which is matrix. And we're going to go to 5. And then from here, we're going to hit that little button next to the 9. which is here, and we're going to hit enter. We want 2 rows, tab, 3 columns, so we're not going to change that one, tab, okay. So from here, let's go ahead and enter -10 tab, 3 tab, -2 tab, like this. It is super important that when you're using your calculator, you're not leaving off a negative somewhere. So notice that all the numbers, all the negatives, everything looks good. So I just hit enter, and this is what I get. So this one's going to be a little bit harder to interpret, but I'm going to focus on something specifically. So let's go ahead and write this down because this is our answer. So for this one, I'm just going to move that over a little bit. Our output matrix, what my calculator gave me is a -3/10 here, 0, 0, 0, 1. So let's look at what they gave us. You pay attention to this one right here. Notice that this is still our x, this is still our y, this is still our equal sign and constant. And this equation is kind of messy. So I'm going to ignore that for a second. Just going to ignore it, and I'm going to go straight to the bottom. The bottom is telling me that there are 0 x's, 0 y's in this equation, and it's equal to 1. So I'm actually going to write this out. 0 is equal to 1. And if you remember anything that we've been doing about our variables disappearing, our x's go away or our y's go away, then we analyze the 2 numbers that are left. We know 0 is not equal to 1. So because this is not true, we're going to say no solution. And the one thing that I want to point out is sometimes you can't tell that something is a special solution, like a no solution or many solution. So you just have to work it the same way. And if you notice that you have 0, 0, 1 at the bottom of your output matrix, then that automatically tells you it's 0 equals 1. And because 0 doesn't equal 1, it's an automatic no solution. So what does it look like when it's a many solution? Let me show you. All right, as you can tell, our many solution has 2 equations, both in standard form. Now the only thing that I'm going to fix before I start writing my matrix and typing it into the calculator is that they're both in standard form, but the x does not have a number. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 1 so we can then put it into the matrix. So for this one we have 1, 6, 12, -2, -12, -24. And this is my matrix. So let's grab our calculator and let's do the exact same thing. So I'm going to hit menu, I'm going to go to 7, I'm going to go to 5, and then I'm going to hit that button next to the 9. Notice it saves my spot where I was last time. And I want 2 rows, 3 columns. Okay. All right, let's type in these numbers. I know I'm going kind of quickly. Ooh, hold on. Maybe I should slow down. Okay. Tab 12. Do not leave off your negatives. Okay. So our numbers are typed in. I didn't leave anything off. I'm going to hit enter. And this one, even though it gives us nicer numbers, there is something that should stand out to you. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over. We're going to write down our output matrix, which is our solution matrix. We have 1, 6, and 12. But notice at the bottom we have 0, 0, 0. So I'm going to ask you to go to the very, very bottom and notice that you have these right here. So when you get an output matrix and it has nothing but zeros at the bottom, we don't even care what these numbers are. You have zeros at the bottom, it automatically means that 0 is equal to 0. And that is a true statement, so we would say many solutions. So you have to pay attention to what form it's set up. If it's a many solution, 0's at the bottom. If it's a no solution, 0, 0, 1 at the bottom. And if it is a 1 solution, then you should always have a set of diagonal 1s with zeros on the opposite diagonal. This is how you can tell if something's a no solution. Actually, a one solution. Okay, well that is it. I hope that these examples have helped, and I'll see you guys in the next videos.